Week 1 of the 2025 NFL season was about as entertaining as we all hoped it'd be. What a crazy way to start out the year. The only thing that would have made it crazier is if this play got brought back by a penalty on a non-existent hold. Last week I went 9-7 on my predictions, which is pretty pathetic, but I try to convince myself that it's fine, it's week 1, nobody really knows how these teams are really doing. And even here in week 2, it's kind of hard to tell the state some of these teams are in. But I assure you that I will get better as the season goes on. I promise. We'll start with the first game of the week, which by the time this video is posted will have probably already started. You got the Washington Redskins versus the Green Bay Packers. This is a pretty good matchup. It looks like it'll be a good-ass game. Really wish I could watch it, but Amazon Prime, am I right? The Packers stomped on the Lions last week. I just don't know if that game said more about the Packers or the Lions. But what I cannot say is that the Packers did not look solid. Their defense actually looked pretty damn good. That Micah Parsons effect is already setting in. As for the Redskins, they also looked fine last week, but they went against the Giants, so I can't really take a whole lot away from that. That was pretty much a fourth preseason game for the Redskins. I think this is their week 1. This is like their first real game of the season. Based on their week 1 performances, the Packers, I felt, looked a lot more organized and comfortable, which is why I'm picking the Packers to win this game. This game could go either way, but I think the Packers will take this one. Next, you got the Gentle Giants versus the Dallas Stars. The Giants, as I mentioned, win against Washington. They look like shit. That's about it for them. Meanwhile, the Cowboys, despite also losing, looked much better. They actually put up a really good fight against the Eagles, especially in that beautiful first half. They could have even won the game if it wasn't for a couple of CeeDee Lamb miscues. But against the Super Bowl champions, the Cowboys looked really good. This should honestly be an easy win for Dallas here. Next, you got the Seattle Smallcocks versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Seahawks should honestly be ashamed of themselves. They lost to a team on crutches. And you see, it's funny because in my season predictions video, I said the Seahawks were overhyped. Then in my week 1 predictions video, I said they weren't overhyped, and I apologized. And now I'm saying they're overhyped again. And I'm tired of going back and forth. So the Seahawks are overhyped until they prove otherwise. They'll be going to Pittsburgh to see an old friend, DK Metcalf, as they take on the Steelers. In my last video, I said the Steelers-Jets game would be defensive and low scoring, and it was quite the opposite. But in my defense, who the hell is expecting the Steelers and Jets to combine for 60 points? But as far as this game goes, the Steelers look like a far better team on both sides of the ball. I'm gonna pick them to win this game. Maybe not by a lot, but I just don't see them losing here. Next, you got the LA Rams versus the Tennessee Titans. Yeah, Cam Ward's not getting anything done with the Titans. It's just not happening. Him and his offense got shut down by the Denver defense, and now they got to take on the Rams defense, who looked much better, not letting the Texans do anything that game. Not only do I have the Titans losing this game, I'm also going to predict that they score 0 touchdowns. That's how little faith I have in them. Next, you got the Bills versus Jets. Both teams scoring a lot more points than I thought they would because they went against some tough-ass AFC North defenses. The Justin Fields-led Jets somehow managed to put up 30 points against the Steelers in a game that came down to the wire. And the Bills, of course, pulling off an amazing fourth-quarter comeback against the Ravens. Beautiful offensive performances for both teams, but I'm picking the Jets to win this one. My reason? I just feel like the Bills are going to have a bad game. No hard feelings, boys. Everyone does. And besides, there has to be at least one upset per week, and I think this will be the one. Next, you got the Patriots versus the Dolphins. So, the Patriots looked underwhelming, and the Dolphins looked disappointing. Two completely different words, just so you know. Actually, not really. They kind of mean the same thing, but disappointing sounds a lot worse, and in this case, it is. I don't know what Miami was doing last week against the Colts, but I think they looked like the worst team in the NFL last week. If you need a pristine example of what a disorganized football team looks like, watch that Dolphins game. As for the Patriots, they're still piecing everything together, all right? Just give them some time. That wasn't the game. Raiders, they look a bit tougher than they were in the past few seasons. But Look, the Patriots are still working it out, okay? However, it's being played in Miami, and for some reason, the Patriots always play like shit in Miami. I really want to pick the Patriots to win, bro. All right, I'm gonna pick the Dolphins to win on like a nice little bounce back game. Maybe regroup and make something of that pathetic game last week. I don't know. This game could go either way, but I'm gonna pick the Dolphins this time. Next, you got the Jaguars versus Bagels. The Jaguars look hopeful. The Bagels looked awful. However, it's not unlike the Bengals to play like complete hot stinky shit in the first week of the season, so that's nothing out of the ordinary for them, but they usually pick it up by about week 2 or 3ish. And the Jaguars, again, they look pretty solid against the Panthers. They look good against the Panthers, so can't give them a whole lot of credit for that. I'm gonna pick the Bengals to win. They're a much better team, being played at home and everything. This should be an easy win for the Bagels. Next, you got the San Francisco 49 fucking injuries versus the September Saints. No Purdy, no Kittle, no Brandon, no Jennings. 49ers, you might just have to get like a whole new medical staff at this point, or maybe stop training your players so hard. I don't know what the problem is, but it's clearly something you guys are doing. There's clearly an issue going on with your facilities. They may have gotten rid of Jake Moody, but Niner fans are feeling pretty moody, thanks to all these injuries, I'm sure. But despite all that, they did get the win against the Seahawks, so hey, good for y'all. Meanwhile, the September Saints, they lost to the Cardinals. They really didn't look like themselves. Only 13 points? I'm disappointed. You know what? You know why the September Saints lost? It's because they were wearing those ugly-ass jerseys. Don't wear that shit again, please. But yeah, it looks like Mac Jones is going to be starting for the 49ers, and if I see him on the field, I'm picking the Saints to win. Actually, I'm just going to pick the Saints to win regardless because the 49ers are so beat up right now. The Niners defense looks good, and don't get me wrong. Hey, look, I told you about Robert Saleh. He is that guy. But they're just so beat up on that offense. And going against the September Saints in the Superdome, and hopefully they're wearing their all-black jerseys. No funny shit, please. I feel like the Saints got this one. Next, you got Cleveland taking on Baltimore. Obviously, the Ravens looked really good last week up until the fourth quarter where they blew a 15-point lead to the Bills. I thought the Ravens' defense was elite. What elite defense is giving up 41 points to anyone? And what we're not going to do is blame Derrick Henry for the loss. Yeah, he fumbled at the end there, letting the Bills back into the game. But that man had over 150-something rush yards and a couple of touchdowns. We're not blaming him. He did his job. And again, the defense couldn't stop shit. There was multiple opportunities for the Ravens to seal the game. Takes deep breath. Meanwhile, the Browns just played like complete turbo shit. Like, if you're losing to the week 1 Bagels, I don't see how you win this game. AFC North matchups are very weird, so the Browns might pull some fuckery and win here, but I'm going to pick the Ravens to win this one. Next, you got the Bears going against the Lions. On Monday, we saw the Bears' monthly sell as they looked like they had control of the Minnesota Vikings and then just let up 3 fucking touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They just cannot stop losing in stupid-ass fashion. It's like a fetish for them. Meanwhile, the Lions, they didn't look too good either, but I'm gonna pass that game against the Packers off as some development issues because, again, they do have new coordinators. And speaking of coordinators, it's funny how Ben Johnson versus his old team. That'll be interesting. Both teams coming off of a disgusting L last week, but I'm gonna pick the Lions to win their home opener. I just think they're the much better team. Next, you got the Broncos versus the Colts. Battle of the Horses. The Colts completely embarrassed the Dolphins last week, but fans, do not get too high up on this team because I'm not impressed. I wouldn't really say that was the Colts doing great. That was more so the Dolphins just sucking ass. So, relax on the Colts, okay? They ain't do nothing impressive yet. Meanwhile, the Broncos, I cannot put into words how pathetic their offense looked last week. Their defense won the game for them against the Titans. They're so forgettable. If the Broncos play like that again, they're not winning this game. Again, I'm not impressed with the Colts from last week, but I do see them sneaking away with this one. If they just keep doing what they're doing and the Broncos keep doing what they're doing, then yeah, this should be the Colts game, no problem. Next, you got the Panthers taking on the Cardinals in Arizona. The Cardinals took a page from the Chiefs' satanic book of dark magic and managed to cast a spell on the September Saints, which would ultimately lead to them beating the Saints. Though the job wasn't executed super cleanly, they made a bit of a mess of it, but ultimately they got the job done, and that's all that matters. Meanwhile, the Panthers played about as shit as I expected them to. So, unless Cam Newton comes back, I don't see the Panthers winning this one, so I got the Cardinals here. Next, you got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. A very intriguing game that is not prime time for some reason. Do you guys think the NFL Plus app will let me watch this? So the Chiefs lost to the Chargers in Brazil last week. That defense did not look like themselves. They made that Chargers offense look like something special. I don't know, just looking at these Chiefs players on the defense, it looks like they were partying last night. Like they had woken up late that morning in a drunken state and they just were not fully locked in for the remainder of the day. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles looked about as good as I expected them to be. It did take a little bit for them to adjust to the fight that the Cowboys were putting up, but by the second half, they had everything locked down and they secured the win. I do feel like the Eagles are better than the Chiefs on both sides of the ball, and not a whole lot about either of these teams have changed since the last time they met. But the Eagles look like the dominant here, and that's assuming Xavier Worthy plays for the Chiefs. If he doesn't, I don't see any way in hell the Chiefs will win this game. But regardless of Worthy's status, I got the Eagles winning this game. Next, you got the Atlanta Falcons versus the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings pulling off an impressive fourth quarter comeback against the Bears. Right before I was about to fall asleep too, JJ McCarthy shows us what he can do. Meanwhile, the Falcons... Okay, what happened here? So they're down, obviously, but they get into field goal range. Koo's gonna make this kick because it's Koo, but then where does it go wrong from here? Oh, Koo missed. That's just a bad omen at that point. I'm not gonna lie, the only glimmers of hope I see for the Falcons are Bijan Robinson and Michael Penix Jr. But of course, I don't think them two alone are going to be enough to carry this team to anything great. They're going to have to get some, I don't know, they're going to have to get somebody or, I don't know. After what I've seen from the Vikings last week, if they can play how they did in the fourth quarter, but throughout the course of this game, the Vikings got this game, no problem. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Next, you got the Buccaneers versus the Texans. So the Buccaneers clutched up against the Falcons, which I guess is nothing special. Meanwhile, the Texans got strapped up and locked down by the Rams' defense. I mean, they didn't do shit that game. This game could actually be really close and really competitive. Doesn't mean it'll pique my interest though, because they're both South teams, and I just cannot bring myself to care about the South. I'll pick the Texans to win this one. I feel like the slightly less intimidating Bucks defense will be a breath of fresh air compared to the Rams defense they faced last week. And lastly, you got the LA Chargers taking on the Vegas Raiders. Dang, this game's being played hella late. I swear to God, the Chargers get more primetime games a year than girls I talk to. Both teams coming away with a W last week, the difference being the quality of their opponents. The Raiders beat a newly developing Patriots team, while the Chargers beat a potentially still ongoing dynasty team. This game is going to be competitive, but I'm picking the Chargers to win. I feel like the quality of their opponents really played a part in how they performed last week. So again, the Raiders beat the Patriots, who are not all that, while the Chargers beat the defending AFC champions. I don't know if that made any amount of sense. Just know that I'm picking the Chargers to win this one. If my predictions this week are worse than last week, I'm canceling my NFL Plus subscription.